I am terribly sorry, everybody. There was a bit of a error with our scheduling, but I will let you all join and then I'll go ahead and get started talking about Boom Learning today. I'm going to record this and put it on YouTube for you as well, so I'm really sorry about the time and being a little late for this. We had a bit of a scheduling problem and I missed it. I'm very sorry. I'll go quick today, and I think I'll finish on the hour like I usually do, so about 45, 50 minutes. If you would like to talk to me, please, you can use the chat in Zoom or the Q&A box. I'll check that as well, and I'll interact with you a little up until the end of the hour. If you have any questions, that is, of course. Today, I'm mostly just going to give a basic tour of Boom Learning and talk about some of its best stuff, things that your students might really like. And to get started with that, I'm actually going to share my screen of Boom Learning. Now, I use Chrome for this, but you can use iPads and iPhones or other tablets and devices with touch screens. And you can use Firefox or Brave or Safari as well to sign into Boom Learning. And I'm using Chrome. As you can see, there's an address bar up here. And I went to wow.boomlearning.com. When you're on this page, you can scroll down and read some things about Boom Learning and what it is. But for the most part, you can skip all this because today I'm going to get into it with a little more detail. If your school is considering purchasing Boom Learning for lots of teachers on the team, you could bring this up with them and they might be able to get a school account for everybody. Down here is a brief look at our upgrade options. I recommend using Starter if you're not sure, because Starter will let you make some student accounts and make some Boom cards of your own if you'd like. And then if you would like to use more student accounts for report data and things like this, making Boom cards, you could upgrade then. For the sake of the recording, if you're watching this after July 1st of 2024, the Essential membership will go away. So you'll have to choose between Premium or a publisher membership at that time. To create an account, if you don't have one yet, you would just click this Sign In tab up here, and then there's a little Join for Free button. And all you have to do is enter an email address, and then it lets you make a password and you can sign in. I have created a demonstration teaching account, and to get into an account that you've already made, you would click I'm a teacher. Or if your students have accounts and you've made those for your students, you'd click I'm a student, and I will cover that in a little bit. For now, I'm just going to click I'm a teacher, and then I'm going to use a username and a password to access my demonstration account. I've set up this account a little bit so that there are some things going on, but mostly it's brand new. There's nothing on it yet, and I'm going to show you what it's like to set up an account and what you can do with it once you have some stuff in your account. The teaching account has classes up here, a little tab here. Oops. The library where Boom cards are stored. The actual games and activities that the students will play go here in the library. Reports are where when the students sign in and play a game, the reports will show you how they addressed the cards, when they answered, and which options on each card they selected. And if they have to type an answer as well, you can see that in reports. The store is where you can go and get Boom cards, even if they're free. So if you find a Boom card deck in the store that's 0 points or $0, you can just add it to your library immediately, and I'll show you how to get that. And then the studio is where the Boom cards are created. So publishers will upgrade to the publisher subscription, and then they'll make lots of curriculum and activities, games, things like this, and they'll publish them to the store, and they start by making them in the studio. When you first start looking at your account or sign in, you'll be on the dashboard. And the dashboard kind of gives you an overview of what is in your account. You have some classes here, and a classroom is basically just a folder that holds student accounts in it. So a classroom may have student A, B, and C, and then your other classroom has students 1, 2, and 3. The library is where boom cards go, and as you can see, I do not have any boom cards yet, but you can go and get them with this button. And if you have been making some boom cards of your own, you'll see them here in your studio. And I've been making all sorts of tests and games and things to play with. So those are down here, and these you would own every right to the ones that you make yourself. To get started, I'm going to go to the classes, and I kind of recommend doing this as well if you're just getting started with your account. To go to classes here and at least set a little picture for yourself in this circle up here. And you can do that just by clicking or tapping on it. When you click on the picture, it gives you a images manager. And this is where you can begin to upload pictures to your account, like clip art and other teaching resources that you can use to make boom cards with later. In this case, you would just click upload to add an avatar image. You can also click or tap on your name and change what your nickname looks like to your students. If you scroll down here, this is all empty because I do not have a classroom selected yet. But on the left here are a list of classrooms, and I do have one created already. If I click on it, I can see some information pop up here. There's a lot going on here. There's some information about the classroom up here, and this is maybe useful for older students if you would like to unlock the classroom to let them make their own accounts, or turn privacy off so that they can see one another. In this case, the classroom is locked and private, and all new classrooms will be this way by default. And you can create the students, which will appear down here, and you can manage how they sign in and what their nicknames are. I'm going to create a new classroom really quickly, just so you can see what it looks like by clicking this new classroom button. Then we have this big empty classroom there. I know there's a lot of text in here, but really there's not much going on. If I click or tap on the title of the classroom, you can change it. And you can change other things about the classroom information here too. To really get started though, we click this new student button. And from here, we can create a brand new student account by giving them a nickname and this little password. I already have a new student set up here. We can simplify their username. As you can see here, it gave them this random one, which it just means all the usernames have to be unique from one another. So I'm going to simplify it by taking some of those numbers off and just making it a little easier for the student to type in. You can import students as well. So if you have a Google Classroom or Microsoft Teams or other LMS options like Clever or ClassLink where your students are set up there, you can actually access them as long as you can sign into those accounts where the students are and import lists like these without having to create them by hand inside the Boom Learning platform. You can manage the students in other ways with these buttons up here. I'm going to set a new password for this whole classroom because I don't really want them to have to type so much. So by clicking the Set Passwords button and then turning this Picture Password checkbox on here, we can change the password so that instead of having, oh my goodness. Instead of having to type B_4 and the password was webinar1, we'll now have a password that's just to highlight some images. And as long as the student highlights the same images you do here, when you set them up, 3 or more, they can sign in as a credential, as a password. So now we have a new classroom, and we have some students from before who have been playing boom cards for a little while. And now that we have these two classrooms, we're going to move on and talk about what boom cards are themselves. Because we have our students ready, they can actually sign in and play things. So we need to get some stuff for them to play. So I'm going to jump now over to the library tab. And sadly, I do not have anything in the library yet. As you can see, it's empty. There's a little button here to go to the store, but I just want to point out that there are a couple folders by default where boom cards that you get from the store are in your purchase folder, even if they're free. So if you find lots of free stuff, and I'm going to show you how to do that in a moment, they'll all go in purchased. But if you have the self-published folder selected, you will only see boom cards that you have created from your own studio. So these would be things you made from scratch. And if you have a newer account, this of course will be empty. So what I'm going to do now, since we don't really have anything yet, I would like to just jump to the store and show you how you can use it to find lots of teaching materials really quickly to build your account. In the store, you'll see here, it's divided into different portions. So right now it's selecting featured. And if I scroll down below the search bar and below where these points bundles are, we'll see there are some authors here that are featured for a while, and then some specific decks pop up. The author of the deck is in the upper right corner and their store logo, and then in the lower right is the cost of this particular item. We can tab through different things. If we want to look for just authors, we can search for them. Or if we're looking for a ready-made boom card deck, you can play it and get reports from it, you would select decks. And then everything past that, if you're thinking about making your own boom cards and getting started, you could go to images and fonts and printables to start getting some clip art and pieces to build compositions on each card and make them look nice and fun and fun to play. We're going to look at mainly this decks tab and look at boom card decks. And a boom card activity, kind of in a nutshell, is like a slideshow presentation that has rules and interactive bits and bobs on each card in the presentation. I'm going to search through the store now to show you how to get free items. And the best way to do that is to use the drop down right here that says sort by. It's just below the search bar and above where all the boom cards are. And you can switch this to a low to high pricing sort, which will put the lowest price items at the top, which are often free. If you combine this sort by other search filters, for instance, there is a rather popular series of games or a type of games called Counting Frogs, where there are some frogs in a picture and you have to decide what number represents how many frogs there are. If I combine Counting Frogs, and now we have a keyword with low to high pricing, we can actually find quite a few free activities here. You'll see the little 0, and there's actually an add to library button as well, which if you click it will just add it immediately to your library. If you find something you like and want to look at more, you can just click directly on it, and then it will show you a listing of the item, so what it is. The author, the title, its cost, what the grades are, what grades the activity addresses, and how many cards are in the deck, which is pretty important to understand for how Boom makes reports when the student plays this. So 10 cards, that's kind of like 10 slides. If we scroll down here, we'll even see a little preview, which is very limited in the store page of the deck. But we can play it a little bit. And we see here, it will show a number of frogs and then the numbers that we have to choose at the bottom, which represents how many frogs there are. And this little preview play will show us a few of the cards in the deck, but it won't do everything. It won't play sounds. It won't show all of the cards. And it won't shuffle them up either. And boom card decks are often built by the publisher to randomize so that the student can play it repeatedly, but it's not always the same. I really like this deck, so I'm going to click the Add to Library button. And it will go immediately into the library. It'll even give you a little update here. And I can leave the store now, right back to the library, and we'll see it. It's here. And now we have a boom card deck that we can use with our students that we set up earlier. So what should I do to use this? How do we look at it more deeply? If I just click directly on it, it will show a full screen preview, which might not be appropriate for the students unless you may have it on a smart board or maybe a group activity, a screen, because it won't shuffle, and it will show some options for the teacher, like the ability to hide the card that you're looking at from an assignment to the student that's being graded. But you can still, again, you can play it, and it will play the sound. Hopefully that wasn't scary, startling, but it'll actually play sound, and you can hear it and skip through it now, and you can see all of the cards. Because, yes, it was free, but you did purchase it fully, and now you can use it fully. So we want to use it in other ways, though. We don't want to just preview it. And to do that, we would click this little action button, which is in the upper right corner. This action button has a bunch of options here where you can choose to assign it to a classroom. If I click assign, it will show me this little modal where we'll see something familiar, where our classrooms are that we set up from before. And if I click this little checkbox here on each classroom, that's kind of like taking the Counting Frogs game from a shelf and putting it on the desk for the students and putting all the pieces and setting it up so they can play it. So if those students sign in now from these classrooms, they'll be able to see Counting Frogs and they'll be able to play it. I would like to actually show this really quick, and I'll come back and we'll look at these actions a bit more. But I'd like to show you what the students will see when they sign in and now play the Counting Frogs game. To do this, you would use the settings button up here and just sign out of your teaching account. You can also use an incognito tab, I think is what Chrome calls it, which gives you another kind of browser, and you can sign in as the student there. I'm just going to sign out and use I'm a student this time. Click sign in with Boom. The username we chose was B_4 from earlier, and we also made a picture password, if you remember, which of course I made a bee and a dog and a cat, the obligatory bee. And then when I click sign in, I'll be able to now see what your student would see once you've set up the student. And they have a picture that they can choose from to kind of personalize their account a little bit. And as they play Boom cards, they'll earn some points, which are kind of arbitrary for the most part, but they do help them earn some more images for their avatar. The important bit, though, is down here with their assignments. And we can see that the Counting Frogs game is visible to the student. And if the student clicks it and plays it from here, we're going to notice it's a much different situation where now the first card isn't the 4 frog card. This card has 9 frogs on it. And it will properly shuffle up the Boom card deck. It'll play all the sound. It will not show the student the hide card button. They'll be able to save a card, but they won't be able to do what the teacher can do. And, I'm going to get one wrong just because I want to show that this session is also taking report data. It's showing if the student got the answer correct or incorrect on that initial guess. As you could see, it let me guess incorrectly, and then it let me guess correctly, but I still got it wrong, and the reports will reflect that. And it will also track the time that the student takes to look at the card before answering. When the student clicks save and quit to go back, and they've only done half of the deck, it will show them some results right away as well, which the student can even click on from here to show an accuracy map. And we'll cover this a little bit later in more detail, but you'll see they have the cards they did see when they went through the deck and some that they did not see. We're going to go back to the teaching account now, which is technically where you'll spend most of the time setting up the account. I'm going to take a moment before I cover the rest of the actions to answer a question here. I see. Is there a way to save the last slide the student worked on? I need that for some Boom cards. So yes, when they do sign in and they click the little save and quit button, I just did it very quickly. I apologize. But when the student was signed in, I did 5 of the 10 cards, and then I took a brain break. I clicked save and quit, and then I went back, and we saw that that little progress circle was half full, like green. And so it will save their position when they sign back in and they click counting frogs again. They'll pick up that active session that they were in the middle of. I want to cover what else the boom cards can do just in case there is some value in here for you. The fast pin is pretty fun because what a fast pin will let you do is just play this game right now. No sign in, no reports. The student doesn't need an account or anything like this. We would just click the fast pin option, then generate a pin, and then you can take this link here. As you can see, I just select it all and copy it, and then paste it up in the browser's address bar up here. And then you'll start playing this game without the hide cards option. It will properly shuffle it up, and it will play all the sounds, but it won't take reports or require a sign-in. So I think fast pins are very useful for group activity, especially to cause the deck to play the way the publisher intended it. Because preview play does not really play it the way the publisher intends. It doesn't do everything that the publisher makes the deck to be able to do. A start live session is very new for us, but it might be fun for you for remote learning or having a student play the game while you're playing it. And basically, it's kind of like a fast pin, but you can see one another's cursors moving around and you can play the game at the same time as one another. I'm going to click the start session button right here, and you'll see it gives me a link again, kind of like the fast pin link. And if I paste this into the Zoom chat, you don't have to do this with me if you don't want to. But if you did join that link with me, you would actually see an anonymous token of yourself. You would see your own cursor through my stream because we would actually be playing this game together. And if you click on answer, I would hear it go ding and we'd move to the next card. Oh, hello, there's somebody. Oh, there we go. Oh my goodness. Yep, or it's a race. So we can see each other kind of. Oh my goodness. This is a hard one. I'll do it. The 7 card.
Whoops.
Ah! Now there are no reports, so don't worry. No one's gonna get any bad grades for this. Wow, we just finished the 10 cards. That was very, very fast. But that's Boom Live, kind of in a nutshell. We're trying to make it so you can draw or write with ink, it's called, on a Boom card using this, which we think might be very fun for students. But that's as easy as clicking this action, start Boom Live, and give them the link, kind of like I gave it in the Zoom chat, or if you wanted to email it. The only downside is that you have to keep it up. If you're hosting the live session, your device, you need to keep it running, because if you hit back or close the browser, it will end it. So just something to keep in mind. Okay, these are all kind of boring, but the hyperplay link is if you did assign the Boom cards to the students and you do want them to sign in to get reports, you want to know that they completed the work. And when they signed in to do that, you could send them this link here. This is a little bit longer looking, but it's useful for gathering reports. Printing will create a PDF of the activity, which isn't interactive, of course, but at least you could have it in the classroom in some other format. Hiding cards is useful if you find a card that you don't want the students to see. Unfortunately, we don't have much differentiation with this yet, so if you do hide the cards, all the students would then not be able to see that card, unfortunately. Custom play settings, kind of useful to know because of the publishers make the deck in a certain way that plays a certain way, and you can actually change some of those ways. The first thing on the list here is if they hit give up, will it show them the correct answer or not? If you turn this to blue, it will. It will show them, okay, here was the correct answer, even though they hit give up. This is left off by default, though. Allowing multiple plays is kind of useful for decks that shuffle, and even some cards on a deck will have a container where the contents of the container shuffle up. So even if they do see the same card more than once, the correct answer may not always be in the upper left portion of the container. They might have to really look at the card. So playing multiple times and comparing the report from each session as they might improve is one way to collect reports. Or you can turn this off. Let's say if you're doing a formative assessment, you might only want that first result anyway. So you can turn it off so that the deck becomes unassigned as soon as they finish one session. This will also cause every card from the deck to play in that session, because sometimes a publisher will say, yes, I know my deck has 10 cards, but I only want the student to see 5 every time they play. You can tell it instead to play all of them. And I've noticed this happens a lot, where a student will go back to the teacher and say, I know you told me I have 40 cards in the deck, but I only saw 20. You can come back here to custom play settings and make it play all 40 cards, and also let them play it repeatedly just by clicking on where it says the number, or sometimes it says default, which usually means 20. Turning off the cards randomization, I gotta fix this, will just make the cards play in order, the same order every time. Okay, I'm gonna segue now a little into how to view the reports. So why would you have the student sign in at all? Why would you do this? Well, Boom Learning will track reports. So when the student signs in, it will show you some data. I'm going to start here where it may be a little less important, but you can audit a deck to see all of the times it's been played and how those play sessions sort of add up. If I click the view report in that action drop down of the deck for the Counting Frogs game, we'll see a table here where those bees that I'd set up from before have been playing this game. And we'll see here bee number 1 back in September of 23 played Counting Frogs 1 time, and they spent 47 seconds, got 5 correct, 5 incorrect. Then they played it again. They must have just been signed in at the same time. It was me. I did this. They're artificial. But it's basically a way to see what's happening with this report. It shows each time a student completes a session. Pardon me. I'm not sure what's happening. It shows each session in its own row and how long, and if they got this many correct and this many incorrect. It looks like bee number 1 on their 3rd play session did a little bit better because they spent a little more time perhaps looking at the cards. Bee number 2 played a couple times. Bee number 3 played but did not complete the session yet. It looks like they got 2 correct and 4 incorrect, meaning there's 4 cards left to do. And bee number 4, we just did today. I signed in a moment ago and played a little bit of the activity while signed in as the student. And that was about 23 seconds, and I got 4 correct and 1 incorrect. There's also a histogram that shows boom cards in the deck that have the most incorrect answers overall at the top and the most correct answers overall at the bottom. So it doesn't say which students did what. It's really just saying this card has been seen 6 times by students, and all of those times they were correct. Whereas up here at the top, that very frustrating, terrible, awful 7 card has never been answered correctly. Maybe they did answer it correctly after guessing incorrectly first, but in that first session, when they're playing it, they always get it wrong. So it might help with intervening if you want to get more out of the deck that you purchase by seeing which ones you can get rid of. For instance, down at the bottom, we could hide the 1 frog card because they appear to already grasp this. So when they play the deck again, we don't want them to see this one. Make sure I don't have any questions because, okay, we're good. Okay, so to see reports about the students themselves and the classrooms, we would use the blue reports tab right up here in the middle. And from here, we can view a time frame, which we'll just keep to all at this moment. And we can also choose a classroom that we want to look at. In this case, we will choose this Demo Bees Class 1, which is the one where the students have been playing. And then we have a list of the boom cards in our account that we can compare to that classroom. If I highlight one, we'll see, if I scroll down here, there's a bunch of information popping up here about the students here in each row playing the Counting Frogs game. I can actually highlight more than one boom card deck. It's a bit of an overload of information. So at the moment, I'm just going to leave this one highlighted. And we'll keep it there and just cover what all these little data points mean. So we'll have, this is pretty obvious, we have each student in a row, but then we have these columns here, which I can explain what these are, and it might be useful to you in helping your students. I have highlighted them all at the top because in this case, when I print the report card with these buttons up here, export and print, I want to see all of the data points, but we can turn them off to create a different kind of report card for the student. Plays is pretty straightforward. It just shows a decimal of how many times the student has completed this deck. B number 1, we know, has played it 3 times. B number 2 played it twice. And B number 3 played it 0.6. That just means 6 of the 10 cards that they have completed. This might read a little unusual if the deck has, a different number of cards in it total, but it gives you at a glance, more or less, how far the student has gone through the deck or how many times. The average is going to add up the total number of cards that they have played from the deck. So let's say this deck has 10 cards and they've played it 3 times. So they've actually seen 30 cards. And of those cards that they saw, they answered correctly initially 18 of those times. I don't really like average to show to students because the only way for them to improve the average is to already to have already mastered the deck and then play it over and over to just get it right, all the cards right each time to skew the average. So if I just turn it off, you could change what your report card will print like. The best score shows the session where they got the most correct answers, and the first column shows the session where they played it the first time. What was their score on the first time they played it? And then last refers to the most recent time that they played it. Gems, hopefully, are not too confusing. A gem is awarded to a student for each card. So each card represents 1 gem. When they get the card correct, at any time they get the gem from the card. Even if they get it wrong later, they keep the gem. So it's possible to guesswork through the deck and get all the gems, although I think that's a bit unlikely. If you click on the circle, the green play circle, or on their name, you can zoom in to the student to get a little more. And we actually previewed this a bit before. The student can actually see their own accuracy map too when they sign in, but you can view it from here. It shows each session they played the deck and a score, sort of for a glance. But then if you wanted to get more detail, you can see each card in the deck arrayed in these cells here. And the first time they played is the bottom row. The second time is the one above it, and then the most recent, or the third time in this case, is at the top. If you click on a cell, you can see which card it was and what their response to the card was. So it might be good to look for the red X's because this is where they answered incorrectly, and then when they heard whoops, then they went and found the correct one and got a little ding sound. In this case, there's a couple cards here that they have never gotten correct. And as we know, there are 2 gems missing because they had 8 out of the 10 gems. So that's how you would identify this is the card they haven't got credit. The 6 frogs, they're kind of jumbling up 6 and 7. And then this is the 7. The other, we kind of have an idea from looking at the deck reports before that no one is getting this one correct very often. They guess 9 here. And then the session before, they guess 6. So it might be useful to know if something's frustrating the student to just look here and you'll be able to find some trends. Furthermore, there's some response time. So the little dots on the graph, the higher they are up on the graph, the longer the student was looking at the card before tapping a response, or maybe they get distracted sometimes or put the device down. I don't know. This could be quite all over the place. But in this case, we do see a couple where the dots are very low, where they're actually the ones that are simpler. The 2 frog is very low, and then this little dot's pretty low too. It's the 1 frog. So you can find some things with the comparing these two tables, and the dots line up with each card. If you click on a dot, you can confirm which card it was. This might be helpful for learning about how the deck is played. I want to leave room for little questions. If anyone has any at all, please feel free to interject. But otherwise, I'll do a little brief tour of the studio and talk about how to make these things, how to make activities. And that'll be how we sort of close up this intro today. Okay, I don't see any questions, but if one pops up, I'll stop for you, don't worry. The studio. This is my favorite place, personally. I love making boom cards. I think it's fun to put a little piece of artwork on there. And, oh, here we go. Can anyone make cards, or only if you have a certain... If you have a starter membership, which is free, you can make 5 boom card decks. There are some limitations in it, like you can't use the sound widget. So if you're building the deck and putting images on there, I'll show you about that in a moment. But everything else, I believe, is completely open to use, short of publishing. Obviously, to publish, you'd have to upgrade. It's just 5 total. So see, I'm here in my studio, and this is where I would add my logo up here in this little circle. It just so happens to match my class's picture, but this is what you would see in here. See, this publisher has this image as their logo, and they uploaded it here. They also set their whole brand name is their pen name right here at the top. And then they can edit their accounts, grades, and things like that to help them be more discoverable. So when people type in grades or any keywords the publishers want to be found, so they will set this up for their account up here. And you, of course, can do all of this as well. Even if you don't have a publisher subscription, you can still set up your studio. If I scroll down here, we'll see the assets manager. And this is where all the sounds and images and fonts that you want to build your boom cards with can be uploaded. In fact, just real quick, I'll click images, because this will look a little familiar earlier when I was uploading my avatar of what my students see what I look like in classes. You would upload images to this big list in your account of all sorts of clip art. And you see, I have just some really basic shapes and other things. These ones, this ice cream cone that fell was actually a free image on our store, which I used the sort price low to high while searching for images to find free clip art. Actually, I will show you that very quickly. If I go to the store tab and then click images, there is a sort by here with a price low to high option where you'll get lots of free clip art. This is 0, 0. There's a little clover here that's 0. That's awesome. You can just get all of this and search for specific things, and you can use all of those immediately to make boom cards. Sounds, again, you would have to upgrade to premium or publisher. Essential would not be enough to unlock a sound widget to make with sound, but you would upload them the same as images in this little manager here. In the decks manager is where the boom cards are stored that you're creating. And you can click this new deck button here with the starter membership, and it will create a new tutorial deck if your studio's empty. And just click it again. It's kind of frustrating because, like, wait, I click new deck. Where's the blank, fresh, new, empty deck? Just click it twice, and then you'll have a tutorial which might look a little like this that has references in it so that you can go and look, see how do I make cards again? What do these widgets do? And then you'll also have a blank one that has untitled, no title or anything. In my case, I have a whole bunch down here. I just like making them a lot. And I think I'll click on this one here to show you what the editor looks like. The boom card editor is a lot like making a slideshow, like a Keynote or a PowerPoint or Google Slides, very similar. As you'll see here, along the left are the actual cards themselves. And as I click on them, I can look at what's in it. There are details about the deck here, which if I click on this, we'll get a whole bunch of metadata, like a description and the thumbnail. I can click that thumbnail here and change it to something else. I can click on the title of the deck and change that up here at the top. It's a lot like editing a classroom, kind of where you just click on the title of things and you can edit them. If you would like to sell the boom card deck you're making, you can create keywords to help Google Analytics, to help direct people to your store. And you can set subjects, which will help people find your particular practice. The play tab is good for teaching the deck how it runs. So sequential is pretty obvious. It's just going to play card 1, then card 2, then card 3. Randomize would be like the Counting Frogs game, where it shuffles up the boom card deck. And flow magic, unfortunately, I don't have much time to cover all of this stuff in the studio today, but this would make the deck play with these branching pathways. Or maybe you could have a table of contents that sends the student to different card numbers in a specific way, or then sends them back to the table of contents from those cards. So you can get very complicated boom card decks that go like those escape rooms, things like that are made with flow magic. I have another question. Can you use the free images in resources that you sell if you have a paid? Yes, you can. In fact, unfortunately, I don't have enough time to cover all of the studio. We have lots of material on our YouTube page, and I wish I could share more. I just don't have enough time, but please consider reaching out to us at help@boomlearning. If you really would like to make boom cards, I would be more than happy to talk with you because I'm on the desk all the time talking to publishers. But yes, there is a way to get free clip art and then sell it in boom card material you make. And the best way to get that, I think, is if you go to the settings button up here and then click Help Center. We have a big catalog of articles that are all about just instructions, like step-by-step how to do things. And you have to scroll down in the Help Center past all of this stuff to see a pre-filled email field where you can get in touch with us by just writing some information, help me. And we will see it and try to respond as quickly as we can and try to fix things. Or you can use this tab here to search articles. And for clip art, I usually just type permissions or font clip art, fonts and clip art, font and clip art voiceover artist permissions list. There is a gigantic list of artists and clip art producers who have just said, you can use my stuff. Here, go for it. Go get my stuff and you can publish with it. In fact, hold on. I'm going to paste this into the Zoom chat for you. And you could bookmark this and then just search through all of these publishers here. I apologize in advance if some might not be still active, because if their publisher membership does expire, they might not be visible anymore. But I'm willing to bet there are still plenty in here where there's lots of art for you to use if you want to start building boom cards. And absolutely upgrade to publisher and list them if you would like. To me, that sounds pretty fun. Once your sales reach $5, the beginning of every month, you'll receive payouts, and there's more about payout in the articles here. Payment schedule, payouts, and service fees. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff here about publishing to the store. So looks like 15. If you list on the Boom Learning store, it's a 15%. So if you sold $100, you would make 85 at the beginning of the month. Anyway, that's all a bit much. Let's see, another question for counseling professionals development. Do you offer any proof of attendance for this webinar? Yeah, email us at help@Boom Learning and say I attended the intro, and I think we could create a certificate for you. Although I don't know if it's actually certified. I think it is. I don't want to overpromise. I'm sorry, but please just email us and tell us your name, and then we can create a certificate for you. There will also be follow-up emails through Zoom, which I should be able to edit after this webinar, and that will be good for everyone as well. And you can get the recording of this on our YouTube page. All right, we're about at the hour with a minute. If there's any other questions, please feel free to ask them here. But otherwise, I've covered just about everything. Oh, let's see. Some of my students can sign in with Google, and others need to sign with Boom. Can you give me any ideas how I can get them all to sign in with Google? You know, the only way would be to add all of them to Google Classroom. They would have to have, basically what Google Classroom does is the student has an actual email address. It's like a Gmail, and then they get an invitation to their inbox of that address to join a Google Classroom, and it's like a big join button, and they have to click that join button. And then once their name highlights and it's not grayed out anymore in the Google Classroom list, you can go back to Boom Learning where I am on my classes page here, and then click this Google button. And unfortunately, Zoom doesn't share the little pop-up modal, but it basically says sign in with your Google. And then you would go fetch all the students from Google that way. And that's the only way to do it. The student would have to have a Google authentication, basically, to be able to click sign in with Google. You'd have to go through those steps to import them. Okay. Well, again, I'd love to let you all go. We're on the hour, and I don't want to keep you, even though I was a little late. I was able to cover just about everything, I think, with the exception of the studio being quite a doozy, one might say. But again, thank you all for being here. This was a lot of fun, and I hope you join next month. The first Wednesday of every month is when we do Intro to Boom. You might know a lot of it already, but we do add new features a lot to the product so that we can keep things fresh. And I like to explain what those new things are and have fun with them. Do I have a webinar for the studio? Yeah, there are some. Our symposium from last year was really good for some studio stuff because we had the publishers come and share some of their secrets about how they make things. And I think next week the publishers get a new feature, which will be very useful in regards to recording. So let's see if I can get that link for you from our YouTube page. If I share this playlist into the Zoom chat, that's a pretty good place to start, although it's a bit lengthy. The Creating Boom Cards introduction is about an hour, and then some of the publishers have tips and tricks and other strategies that they use for other webinars that they participated in that you could watch as well, to get even more about the studio. I think some of them talk about like branding your account too, like how do you make your logo look nice, and how do you publish even on your own website. You can list in outside marketplaces too for lots of coverage. It's a lot of work. Yes, it's very, very tedious, but it's kind of like once you set it up, you can watch it start to grow in its own way. So anyway, again, thank you very much for attending today. I'm going to go ahead and end the webinar, and wish you all a very wonderful remainder of your week. Bye, everybody.